Welcome to the Impact Maker's Journey from Passion to Profits, the podcast showcasing heart centered coaches, experts, and energy healers who are on a mission to change lives and create meaningful success doing what they love. I'm your host, Wendy Vaughn, business success coach and founder of Impact Maker Coaching. And I've got to be honest, the path from passion to profits is rarely easy, but it's always filled with growth, clarity, and surprising rewards. Now, each week I sit down with inspiring impact makers who have turned their knowledge and wisdom into thriving businesses that are making a meaningful difference for others. I will explore their personal and professional journeys, how they found their calling, and how they continue to stay aligned with their passion along the way. So if you're here to expand your vision about what's possible for yourself, you're in the right place. So join me as we discover the positive ripple effects created by today's guest. All right. Hi there. I have as my guest today, Alena. Now, Rachel is a voiceover expert and talent agent supporting voice actors and really anyone who wants to improve their verbal communication skills, like maybe me. So, Rachel, welcome. I am so excited to have you as my guest today.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here.
And I can't wait to just kind of dive into this work that you're doing because, as I am sure you know, the process of building a business is a journey. You know, we start out with that passion, that idea, that place where it's like, wow, I could make a difference here. But then the journey of building a business is really one of, kind of meandering through the valleys and down into the depths. And it's really almost a personal development journey as well. All with the intention of really making that meaningful difference, for others in their lives. And I personally believe that the work that you do and other experts like you in the let be your best field is kind of a generic word, right?
Sure.
Let's just be our best, right?
Mhm.
It really creates ripple effects that result in more peace, more joy, more happiness worldwide. So, I'm kind of an altruistic person, but that's what I believe. So I'm excited to discover more about you and this important work you're doing. So on that note, curiously, when did you become a voiceover expert and talent agent? And what prompted you to serve others in this way?
Well, first, I just want to say I love that you said that about the ripple effect, because your question of what prompted me, it was not, because I wanted to help others and had a ripple effect. In fact, I was a voice actor myself. Um,
Okay.
Many, many moons ago, I had started very young as a voice actor. And I'd been doing it for a very long time. I was a singer, and my husband was in a car accident, a pretty bad car accident and head-on collision, and I needed to bring in income. And so at the time, I had young kids, and I was like, well, how am I going to make money being home with these kiddos? And I
Yes.
knew that I could be a voice actor, and I had done it. So I put together my home studio and started there.
Mm,
What happened next was almost bizarre. Go
okay.
ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so uh, your own studio. So is this home based
Yes,
or okay?
yes.
So
I had been a voice actor before. Yeah.
raising kids, I just connecting the dots here, raising kids and voice acting, in your home. That must have created some, interesting dynamics right there. So
It did. It did. But I got to be home with my kids. The joke
yeah.
for my children is always, we always saw mom's back because I was always recording, but I was always home with them. And so, and we're really
Yeah.
close. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it started out of, as I think often people don't recognize, it started out of something I did not plan. I did not want, I really wanted to just hang out with my girlfriends and hike and have a good time. And that was not the plan for me. Um,
Reality.
yeah, but with regards to the coaching, I was an actor at Big Fish Talent already, and they're out of Denver, and they asked me if I would coach some of their people. And I'm not sure if that happened first. Actually, I think what happened right before that is I got a random phone call out of the blue from voices.com who said, we need a coach. Are you
Wow.
interested? I'm not sure. I can't remember at the moment. It might have been Big Fish, actually. I think that started it. Big Fish asked me to come in and coach their actors, and I didn't want to tell them no. I was
Sure.
terrified. So I went in and did it. And right after that, people asked me if I would coach them. And I was like, I guess so. And then
Okay.
voices.com randomly called me one day out of the blue. And they're the biggest online pay-to-play site for voice actors at this
Wow.
point in time. So it was just almost beschert, you know that word meant to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I argued with my best girlfriend, my husband. I said, I don't want to coach. I want to be an artist. But
Wow.
people kept coming. And to your point, what I realized is what a phenomenal gift it is to be able to give to others because the ripple effect, I had no idea um, how lucky I'd be to be able to give that gift. It connects back to me and to others beyond
Mm-hmm.
what I could ever imagine.
Yeah, I love that because, two things stood out as you were sharing, that really difficult time, right? You were forced into this situation of having to step up and provide, uh, relying on, okay, I've got talent, and, serendipitously, I think that's a word, serendipitously, people were like, hey, I want you, I need you. And inside you're going, oh, I don't
Right.
want this.
Right.
But you rose to the occasion, which is not easy, right? It's easier to just say, nah, thanks, I'll keep doing what I'm doing. But
Correct.
something inside of you said, take it, Rachel, take it,
That is my
you
belief,
know,
business
take
building
it.
belief anyway. Yes, I believe in that 100%. I feel like, and I think I've mentioned this before, the path that you go on is almost never the path you think you're supposed to go on. But if you say yes,
Yeah,
if you say
that
yes,
takes courage.
but you're going to go somewhere, right? It does take courage, but you're going
Yeah.
to end up somewhere if you say
You
no.
ran screaming, but you said yes.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
just think of all the people that you've supported and helped. So, and just I know that when I introduced you, voice actors and anybody who wants to utilize their voice to communicate more effectively. So, can you tell me just a little bit more about that, and why do people need a voice coach or a voice,
Oh,
the
I love
talent?
this question.
Tell me
Yes,
more
I
about
love this question. So, because I look back at my coaching career and I have worked with podcasters, I have worked with people who have dreams of expressing something that's important to them. For example, something that might be about history. I just recently worked with a gentleman who wrote about history and he wanted to create something, content that brought people interest, right? So he's not a voice actor. He's got a passion for history and he wants to be able to match that to some storytelling and some videos and increase his ability. Or a woman I recently worked with who sells she's a brand promoter. So she goes like on TikTok and these types of things and promotes and really
it?
wants to engage. Or recently I worked with a couple of audiobook narrators. I work with them all the time who had a story to tell. But to answer your question, every single person, whether they know it or not, has some sort of not necessarily verbal, but something about them that needs to be put out into the world, whether it's their energy or their personality or their voice or their artistic ability or their intelligence or whatever that might be. And my gift and skill happens to be at helping people express themselves verbally. And that all different kinds of ways.
Right, right. And so I can only imagine like the uh, leadership within the corporations, because obviously
Correct.
they have a huge responsibility
Hmm.
to inspire and engage and have
Hmm.
that presence that not is not like irritating. I'm
Right, right,
trying
right.
to think of how you know the different ways of utilizing the voice can really support the message, is what I'm hearing you say, correct?
Yes, and beyond utilizing the voice, which people don't often understand or think about, who you are and who each one of us is must come through and connect. And so it's not, I mean, you can talk about the tools of using your voice. That might be how you use pitch, how you use rhythm, how you
Right.
tell your story. But
Hmm.
then there is you and who you are. If you are stiff and inauthentic, and you are not connecting with your listeners, none of that matters. And
Oh,
that's a lot of the coaching that I do. Sometimes with people, it's just you're in a box. We need to get you out of that box and bring who you are into your story. Or you're a little large. Let's tone it down so that you can tell your story in a way that's easier to listen to, or whatever that might be. So
interesting. Yeah. So you have a lot of intuitive
it's
abilities, it
all
sounds
intuitive.
like.
I'm
All
telling
intuitive.
you, when you go back to the story of how I even started, I think it just gives me chills even hearing that because it's all intuitive. A lot. I have a ton of skill in education and voice,
Sure.
in music and stuff, but it's all intuitive because each person that comes to me is like they're like a little ball of something that wants to be heard, and
Hmm.
so it's up to me to unravel that ball and help them.
Right. So you listen kind of through what they're striving to tell you they need, and
Correct.
intuitively
Correct.
message that is
That's
really kind of being blocked or held in. That's interesting. That is really interesting. And voice actors, obviously, they're relying on this for their livelihood.
mhm.
And trying, I can only imagine how competitive it must be,
So competitive.
as Pixar and all the AI generative
Mhm.
things are occurring, voice acting, it must be just really climbing.
Yes, because the barrier to
Mhm.
entry has become more difficult. There's still everything still needs to be voiced because remember that element of who you are. So the lower level stuff that doesn't require that, the AI has come in. But when you start to get into commercial work, higher level audiobooks, storytelling, documentaries, and those kinds of things, who the narrator is and or their acting skill that they can bring to that story
Hmm.
is why AI can't really fill those roles because
No,
it's
thank
not
goodness.
directable in that way.
Right? Thank goodness. Thank
Right.
goodness. Yeah. So, well, I hear a lot of really, I mean, I'm picturing a CEO at a corporation that suddenly can now be himself or herself and communicate in a way that is really impactful and influential. I can see in my mind voice actors. What inspires you to keep doing this work? What is what's in it for you?
That's so funny because I was on a walk with my husband yesterday and I had this exact conversation. I said, in the first place, this was not what I thought I wanted to do, but it's almost become a thing that I have to do. And I said, no matter what happens in our lives, I will keep doing this because um, I feel like it's just what I'm supposed to do. I feel that, there's a word called dharma, right? And that is you do everybody comes here with something that they're supposed to accomplish. And some of us it's work, some of us it's relationships, whatever that might be. It's different for every person. But it's become extremely clear to me. The path, it was like, Dorothy in the yellow brick road where they're like, here you go. But I'm
Yeah.
like, but I wanted to go this way. That the path literally every day just goes like this for me. And every day there's more than I can handle, and there's more that keeps coming, more opportunities for me to voice, me to help other people voice. So it inspires me because it's my path. I'm on like a wave. I'm on a wave, and the wave just keeps going.
It keeps
And I figure,
going.
oh, I'm on the
And
wave.
there you are surfing it. It keeps
I
going,
might as
keeps
well.
going.
All
Over
right,
here in
sometimes it gets
Hawaii,
this little weather event sometimes, but I just keep going. Yeah.
yeah, over here in Hawaii, we have like Jaws, and that is a big wave. And it just,
Oh,
people just ride it the same way as they do a little one. It's just a big wave. You just keep riding it. So I love that
I
analogy.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
So why is that self-expression that I hear you talking about, and that voice within, the message within, why is it so important and beneficial for people to bring that out?
I think that when you express yourself, you are releasing tension. You're releasing anxiety. It gives your body and your spirit and your soul a chance to release. I think so often, and even in voiceover work, even in narration work, even if you're doing corporate work, whatever it is, there are rules, and there are rules in what we do as well. But sometimes the rules squish people. They squish people out of self-expression and out of being who they are. And so no matter who you are and however you do that, I think it just empowers you and brings light to who you are. It's kind of like you said in the very beginning of this discussion. if a person cannot feel like they're heard or felt in this world, even just a tiny bit, how then are they able to hear and feel others? And so, that's part of the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So
healing for all of us.
it is healing. Yeah. I had never thought of it in that regard. Yeah, that's very profound. Yeah. So, well, I get the concepts and everything, and I definitely am, gaining more understanding. Can you share maybe a story with us about one of your clients that you've really supported in this way that has gotten in touch with who they are
Oh,
and
I have
kind
such a
of
good
got
one.
the message out?
Yes, well, I have such a good one. And this is one of
Right.
my favorites because it's
I'm
brand
sure
new.
there's hundreds and hundreds,
There's
so
lots,
just
but this
just
one's
one.
happening like it just happened within this last couple weeks.
Okay.
I am currently working with a 15-year-old, he's 15 now, year old
Mm.
boy, um, who came to me because he was so shy that he was struggling. He couldn't even be in school because he just wasn't able to, it was difficult for him. Very, very shy, mumbled into himself and everything. And we did a few sessions together, and then he asked his mom for more. We've been working together now for maybe a year and a half. It's been a long time. He comes regularly. His mom sent me a message and said this is the favorite part of his week. But it gets more exciting because he and I were working on animation, creating an animation demo, and he's really found his voice. He found who he was, and I encouraged him to go out and audition for a musical. And he went and auditioned
Wow.
with a bunch of big
From
kids.
a shy
Yes, and he landed a
teenager
role.
mumbling to auditioning
Yes,
to be on
and he
stage.
landed a
Okay,
role.
so let me
Yes,
just
and now
like
I know.
take that in.
Isn't that crazy? So he
So,
just did The Sound of Music, and he is a theater kid. Like he's done his first, he's going to do more.
wow.
Then he came and auditioned. He went and auditioned for a commercial, and he's learning that. But the crazy part about it to me is the full circle because he inspired me so much recently, and I was like, this is just the best thing. Went to my old drama teacher who taught me a lot. He was one of my favorite teachers ever. I went to his Facebook page to thank him, and I learned he had passed. And
Oh,
I put a message on there saying that because of what he taught me, I now, all these years later, am able to give the same thing to another kid. And I just wanted to say thank you. And all these people responded saying how the impact that he has had. So it goes back to what you're saying, like
that ripple effect.
that ripple effect. And you wouldn't think this will make a difference, but I bet you it does. I bet you that kid for the rest of his life, he
Oh,
found himself and he's
my
like,
goodness.
my voice matters.
Yes.
That's what
He
matters.
brings laughter into people's lives by being on stage and commanding, and who knows, he'll probably turn into, a very profound
He's really
inspiration to
good. He's become really good.
multitude of other people. So yeah, that is perfect. I love that story. And who would have thought, right? That was the furthest thing from my mind when you said, "Oh, I've got a good story." A
Oh,
15.
really? Because I
And,
just, anybody who wants to express themselves, I'm
yeah,
down. Whatever the end goal is, it doesn't matter
right.
to me.
Well,
Yeah.
I believe that, helping others really to achieve those new levels of happiness, joy, confidence, even financial success
Yes.
creates just such all ships rise. In spite of what we might think is, creating a reality. I think that's the reality, and
That's
where we each can own our own responsibility of making that difference. And one of my mentors early on was Mark Victor Hansen, co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul
so
series,
cool.
right? And he taught me. I was in the 3% Club with him and Bob Proctor,
Oh,
and he
wow.
taught me. He said, Wendy, you need to have a big, hairy, audacious goal, something that just scares you, but it fuels you to just get out of your own way. So you don't even think about you. You're just in it for this bigger vision. And I have hung on to that every time, like in those moments of fear. It's like, well, what's my big hairy audacious goal here? Get out of my own way, right? So I'm just curious, for you. And I have lots of BHAGs, as he calls them. But I'm putting you on the spot here, Rachel.
Yes.
So do you have a big hairy audacious goal that is kind of giving you goosebumps or a vision of
Yes, I
more?
do.
Yeah, I'm
I
putting you on the
do.
spot here. So,
No, I do. I'm writing this course and I've got it's got I think 7 modules or something, and I've written module 1. And my goal, I mean, I feel like I have so much knowledge with what I do, and I want to put it down and write it and get it together. That is my big, hairy goal. Um, and achieving it, the only time I ever seem to be able to achieve it is when I'm on vacation, when I'm supposed to be vacationing because I don't have client work. I've even taken Mondays without seeing clients and Fridays without seeing clients, but my workload is so heavy with I constantly have opportunities and I don't want to turn them down because I love what I do. I have not reached my goal.
well, that's exciting because when you know, are able to reach more people and share your wisdom, because obviously you have much more than learned skills. You have those innate and intuitive skills. So yeah, I just love that. So what's the best next step for people to learn more about utilizing their voice in a way to just unleash, right? That's a kind of an overused word right now, but it feels really appropriate. Unleash their greatness, unleash their voice, unleash what they're meant to share. What's the
Um,
best next step?
well, do you mean
You,
specifically for them?
with you.
Oh, with me. Okay.
Yeah, if they
Well,
want to find out if you hold the key to
oh,
having them
gotcha.
do this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of have a rule, and that is if I ever work with somebody, and you may have the same rule, I like to meet them. So I do 15 minutes for free at no charge, making sure that I can help them and that they are, somebody that I'd want to work with. And I usually I talk about their goals, talk about what they're looking for. We meet over Zoom, and we sometimes go through a script if they're a voice actor, if they're a writer or some other type of communication. We talk about that. And I like to hear their voice. I like to show them my style of coaching, and we kind of talk those things through. So to do that, they can just go to my website. It's rachelalena.com.
Okay.
And
Well, look in the show notes, listeners.
oh,
It's there.
on my contact page, if they fill out the contact page, they will get a message back from my staff, and we will get something set up to
All right.
meet and just, chat it through.
Yeah, fantastic. That's the best way, right? To just be able to have that conversation with you. So that's very generous of you. And I think you said that's complimentary, right? So
Yes, it
15
is. It
minutes, you
works
open
out
up
for
your calendar.
you and for me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rachel, this has been fantastic. I have so much enjoyed our
Me too.
conversation and just learning about what you have gone through, gone past, gone over, and the great work that you're doing. And I just want to acknowledge you
Thank you.
for continuing to serve and in such a dynamic and important way. So this has been great. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate it.
All right. All right. Well, the real life transformations facilitated by experts like my guest today are truly priceless. I mean, happiness, joy, peace, love, right? These are all what each of us ultimately strives for in life. But becoming a sought after and well paid coach or energy healer is often challenging, overwhelming, and frustrating. So, if you're a heart centered coach, expert, or energy healer who's striving for more ease, flow, and abundance, well, I've created a special gift just for you. So, check out the show notes. All right, well, this is Wendy Vaughn signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to join me for my next episode where we'll be inspired by yet another impact maker's journey.